I want to welcome you all to the presentation, Converging Projects in the Classroom, an experiment in interdisciplinary project development among Practicum, music business, and film association, student film association students. In this presentation, the audience will be presented with an integrated project that combines student audio recordings from Music Practicum with music video produced by the Student Film Association and a marketing package developed by music business students. First, I'd like to thank Todd Collins and Dan Palladino for their participation in this work, and also for inviting me to be a part of their presentation today. I think the work they've done this semester is outstanding, and I'm here to talk about why I think we need more of this across disciplines, departments, and divisions. Interdisciplinary work is really important, and I just want to start out with a quick story to illustrate why it is in general and also why it is specifically to music and business. A while ago, my brother-in-law, who graduated some time ago from William Patterson University with a full scholarship for their music department, he announced on Facebook that music education for business is necessary at the college level. Much to my amusement, one of his old classmates chimed in and said, hey, I guess you forgot, there was a music business course that we took at the college level, and he promptly replied to this by saying that he thought it was out of touch with the market that he entered when he graduated. So I want to say that by combining music practicum and business with film and video production, I think CCM, and specifically Todd and Dan and our Vice President of the Student Film Association, Matt Bukovski, are really bridging that gap and getting ahead of the curve. Further, why interdisciplinary work like this is important to work at the college level. We are, I would say plagued, but I think it's a good thing in some ways, by disruption in technology and among curricula and among industries. Disruption, for those of you who may not have a specific definition for this, is when technology facilitates new industries that threaten older industries. Disruption creates fault lines between disciplines and reconfigures curricula based on media convergence. Let me give you a quick example of this. An earlier disruption would be, for example, in the early years of photography, when photography was developed. You had a whole bunch of people with expertise in painting and drawing that had to figure out where they were going to take their art at this point. If we have this box that is capable of creating photorealistic renderings. The same thing happened even earlier than that, if we're going to go back into media history, with the development of the printing press and its relationship to memory. What use is a very long, explicit memory in an age where information can be written down? It's still of some use, but it changes the game. It disrupts the power structure that is created by information. Disruption demands versatile curricula capable of responding to convergence and providing students with an adaptable skill set that is applicable in a changing economy. And I would say that one really big advantage of disruptive convergent technologies is this concept that I have sort of developed called professional empathy. When you have a product that you're trying to produce or a problem that you're trying to solve, it is so helpful to be able to understand what other professionals working with you are facing. So if a musician understands what a marketing team is facing, or someone who's working in marketing understands what a video producer is facing, then they can work together to create a more cohesive product. I'm reminded of the communication concept of the distinction between a group and a team. Whereas a group is a assembly of people with perhaps a common goal, a team not only has knowledge of their specific role in the interaction, but they have knowledge of everybody else's role as well, and they know how they fit into that whole. And with that, I think I would like to, at this point, turn it over to Todd Collins, who's going to talk a bit about music practicum, and he will be followed by Dan Palladino, who will talk about music business. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. So I'm going to talk about how this project came together, and I'm going to talk about the practicum side of it, the audio recording side of it. So for a couple of years now, I've been trying to team video with music to come together and produce something. And it just hasn't worked over the years. But this year I'm on the CTE advisory committee, and Shelley was talking about doing some collaborative projects. And I got thinking, well, maybe this is the time to try something. So Dr. Godone asked me to do a gig with him. And I've played some odd gigs in my time, Italian food store openings and various odd gigs, but this was an odd gig. He said, we're going to play in the back of a golf cart and drive around campus. It's fantastic. Well, anytime Dr. Godone asked me to play with him, I jumped on that opportunity. So we were going to do the gig, and it was being filmed. And I got thinking, well, maybe we could, this is a starting point for a project. Dan teaches the music business class. So I started talking to him in November about a project. I contacted Matt to see if the Film Association would be interested in it. I went to a meeting in December with them on their Tuesday meeting. I gave them a proposal of what we're trying to do, and great response from them. Really positive response. There's excitement with them. That laid the groundwork. So Dan and I came up with a schedule for the spring semester of deadlines that they would have to meet. So how I approach the Practicum students, I meet with them individually. So in the beginning of the spring semester, I had, I think, 6 or 7 Practicum students. I met with them as a group, and I talked to them of what we're going to do with this project for the semester. A little different than what we've been doing in past years. So their job is to create professional sounding audio, a professional sounding project. So really, they are the catalyst for everybody else. They have to make sure they hit their deadlines because everybody else is dependent on what they do. They first have to do some assignments for me. And I really think of these as exit exams in the recording program. They have to be able to show me they can identify microphones, wrap cables, etc. before they can leave CCM. So once they accomplish all these assignments, then they can start on the project. So right after midterms, they have some rough mixes of their projects. Now, I had them send the rough mixes to both Dan in the music business and to the Film Association. So now the Film Association guys would be able to choose. We gave them 4 rough mixes. They would choose from these 4 rough mixes of what they wanted to do a video of. But I wanted to also play some of the other projects for you. I'm not going to play everything, or complete songs. One student recorded a band that was a medley of tunes that went on for 16 minutes, so I'm not going to play it. But I just want to show you the diversity of material that these students are working on. So the first tune I'm going to play for you is by a band called Monitor. The song is called Devil's Dance. The student I worked with was Matt Sergio. And I'm going to bring the volume down because this might get a little loud.
Come
All right, this is a band of CCM students. Original material. Matt's friends with these guys. Decided he wanted to engineer and produce this 3-song demo for them. Came out so well that they're going to get it mastered and they're going to put it out on their own now. To me, they have accomplished this professionalism that I really strive for with these guys. I'm looking for them to have radio-ready material by the end of the semester. And the songs that were selected for the video, these have to be original material, no covers. And actually, nobody did covers in the Practicum projects this semester. This is all original material that the artists did. All right, the second tune I want to play for you is by a band called the company Kept. The song is called Pyrite, and the engineer and producer is James Avila. All right, that was, excuse me, that was James's project. The next project, the student had a little different approach. Actually, the band had a little different approach. And this band called Lord, I love the signs too. So this band, Lord, wanted to play all their songs together, live. The last one was a different process, where they would layer things. They would record just the drums and bass, then come back in and put guitars. That's called overdubbing. This, it was just cut live off the floor. And the engineer producer is Mark Curis. Mark had to capture all that. He had to make sure his levels were fine. He went and recorded, so this is 16 minutes. I'm not going to play all 16 minutes, don't worry. But he had to make sure that nothing distorted, everything sounded great going down. That's the job of the engineer. Yeah. So I'm going to play you a little, just about 2 minutes worth of the beginning of this. This is a whole different vibe. CD?
Right, or is just because the other one you said was 3.
Well, they said they had 3 songs built into this.
I got you.
So that,
16 minutes was like an EP.
yeah, well, they really are all EPs. And except they wanted to approach it connecting everything.
Did they create that
Well, that, Dan's gonna talk about that, and that's coming from music business. And I love that sign. Cool.
I've seen something like it, but I don't think I've seen it.
I didn't always know that. Okay, so that was Lord, and this does have some vocals in one section, but it's mostly an instrumental record. And the last one I'm going to play for you. Now, these are not the ones that were chosen for the video. I just wanted to give you some examples of some of the other projects. And the last one is by the engineer and producer Dennis Gamley. The band's All Over Jones. We actually know him as Brian Baird and with Brett Ross.
Brett Ross, right.
It's a duo, but they go by the name All Over Jones. Brian is a singer-songwriter, and this is again another overdubbing process that they produced here.
All you got me all night long. Tell me stories of what I did wrong. I didn't know 'cause I let you down away. Spotted I am frozen still. Hold me down, now break my will. I want you to know that I'm still not the one you're looking for.
So my whole, excuse me, my whole goal is for them to have professional sounding EPs, demos by the end of the semester. And in the bigger picture, all that they did this semester with the artwork, with the video, is something that they could plug right in professionally. We want them to be able to work on a professional level, to think about what's going on in the real world. This isn't just classroom assignments, classroom projects. These are things that are actually going on in the professional world.
And these were all produced on campus here?
All produced on campus.
Using
Everything.
the studio down here with the equipment that we got from the...
Everything was done here, yeah. And I think all of the artists, or the majority of the artists, were students too. So anybody have any questions? Yes?
The CD art students, are they the music majors or are they graphic design majors?
Well, that's a really good question, because this came into the music business side of it. And when we played the video last week, that came up of bringing graphic art students involved with it. So when we do this in the fall, we are definitely going to do that. And bring in the photography students here on campus now. So we learn this as we're going along to get more involved with it. So.
But those were James, Avila, and Matt are music students.
All the students who did the artwork were in the music
Or
business class, so they're all music majors.
They're all music majors.
Yeah.
And not a question, but just a comment, because the professionalism required is being at the rehearsal on time, being at the recording on time, making absolutely sure that all your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed. So important from the standpoint of the 9-to-5 world when it comes to making a buck.
Absolutely, and they have to hit these deadlines, because if they don't, everything is going to be backed up and the projects will never get done.
And it's reflected in their grade.
Yeah, so this was one of the really interesting things to see as the project went on, this collaboration with everybody to get the final video done. So and it was fun to watch it develop too.
Todd,
Yes.
I'm all in for integration and integrated studies and collaboration. I support that wholeheartedly. It's very important that each section, the photography and the graphic design, feel the same urgency, because I know in performing arts, we have the choreographer and this and that. It's such an important time element. You see that everything, and that's going to be very tricky. They have to see, everyone has to come on board with the same degree of importance.
That's true, but in the real world, you have to deal with that.
That's
You
right.
have to make sure you meet the deadlines. And in the real world, money's involved. So money's not involved here. Though I thought about charging them for students. I could use that new mandolin.
Yeah,
But we use points, they don't make the
Yeah.
deadlines, we deduct points from.
Points.
Yeah. Yes.
How did you match up people? So like the engineer with the band, or?
I leave it up to the student engineers and producers to choose the artist. I want them to find somebody that they enjoy, that they can work with, and it's not about genre, as you heard, all different types of genre. So it's up to the student to find the artist. Then Dan will talk about combining his group with the engineer and producer project and how they came about it. As far as the Film Association, we gave them 4 songs to select from. Actually, I thought this was the tune that they would choose. Very catchy melody, very poppy sounding. I really thought this was going to be the one, but they didn't choose. They chose, as you're going to see. So now it gives you some insight in what goes on in the real world. There's a lot more to it. You just don't turn on a music video and there's a lot behind it. So I'm going to, any other questions? So I'm going to hand over to Dan. to talk
All right,
about
thanks,
this.
Todd. I wanted to start just by talking a little bit about why we have to do these collaborative projects. Because in the real world, the music industry is such that no management company is going to approach a young artist or a young band. There's no money in it, So to ask a manager to come in and put a lot of resources behind an act that is just starting is pretty unrealistic right now. No record label is going to come and take on a young band. Labels, just because I'm sure it's common knowledge that the music industry has continued to shrink and shrink. They've had a tough time adapting to the digital world. They're always seem to be a step behind. And we were talking before about the journalism industry is similar. Journalism, like the music industry, kind of got caught off guard with the whole online and internet, how to make money that way, and they're trying to catch up. So because of that, labels don't want to put the resources into developing artists. It doesn't really happen anymore. In the past, an artist like Bruce Springsteen, I think when that big hit Born to Run came out, he had done 3 albums before that really didn't sell that much. Born to Run was probably their last big push to try to get something happening with him. If that was happening today, it's one and done. If you're able to have a deal to put a record out, that has to sell right out of the box. If it doesn't, you're done. So that's just the environment. So no one is going to come and take these young artists and develop them. So they really have to learn how to do all these things we're going to talk about on their own. That's the reality of it. So that's why this project was really important. I thought when Todd approached me about it, I thought, wow, this is perfect for what the music business class is, because I felt like, I tried to give them projects, some hands-on projects to get a feel for what it's like. But in the end, it really was more of a lecture course with some hands-on projects thrown in. Now, with this collaboration, we have a truer picture of what it's really like. So naturally, I have to spend a certain amount of time lecturing about copyright law and publishing and marketing and all of these topics, but we take just as much time actually working in groups on real projects. So they get to see, well, what are the challenges when you need to collaborate with filmmakers? What are the deadlines that have to be met there? What's the challenge to attend a recording session and try to get an artist to do a quick teaser video on your phone? So all of these things the students had to figure out how they were going to deal with that. So that's a little bit about why the project is so important, I think. What I want to just kind of give you an overview on is one issue, which is a genre identification. And what that is being able to describe what it is. What are you trying to sell? What is this music? And musicians hate this. They hate to have to say, I have a band, it's a pop punk band, it sounds like Green Day. They generally resist that. So a big part of my job in the beginning of the course is to convince them that no, it's okay. You need to describe it because the whole rest of the industry is set up that way in these little categories. And if you've seen Pandora or you're on Spotify or YouTube, everything has these little categories associated with it. So genre identification, right from the very beginning of the project, was a really important consideration. And that affects everything. It affects the type of production, right? If it's a pop punk type of song, there's certain production parameters that you need to stick to, or else the audience that appreciates that kind of music is going to feel thrown off. You can't produce it as if it's a acoustic folk record from the 60s. There's a disconnect. So genre is really important in production. It's important in figuring out who your audience is. I'll go back to pop punk again. There's a very specific audience that likes that style. Or let's say country music. There's a specific audience that likes that. Or my favorite, when I describe this to the class, is death metal. There's a very specific type of audience that listens to that music. So the genre is important in all these issues. The types of venues you can play, what record labels might possibly be interested in your act, what the visual image is going to be, right? You can't have a country record and the main performer is dressed like a metal musician with leather and chains. And then finally, genre really affects the type of live performances that the act does. So that was a big part of getting the class up to speed on how to make an effective project. So genre identification, very important. The first thing we did was have students get into groups. Each group was assigned an act from Todd's Practicum class. And I kind of did it the way Todd did it with his engineers. I played the rough demos of the material, and I just let the groups choose whatever they felt excited about. For Lord, the band with the 16-minute project, students were actually fighting to be able to work on the Lord project. That just resonated with them somehow. So I let them choose that. The first thing I wanted them to do is to come up with a record label name, so that the students in my class were really representing the record label perspective on a project like this. So I had them come up with a record company name and to create some letterhead that would reflect the image of that type of a company. So these are some that students did, kind of the highlights of the class. This was a company called Gatefold Records. Another group did Goldmine Records, and that's what their logo looks like. This one stands out because this is a student, Haley Schlenker and Dario Polci. Haley had a friend who was a graphic artist, and part of the parameters that I set out was, I'm not a graphic artist. I don't know if you as the class are graphic artists, but if you know students who are in graphics or you have a friend who's in graphics, try to get them in on it, and try to, bring more people into the project. So Haley had a friend who was a graphic artist, and she did all of the artwork for that project. And this is for the Lord project. So it was the road sign with the, the curves. So that was the letterhead for Distressed Records.
Just a comment?
Yeah.
Haley Schlenker had been a math major.
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah, who's taking music theory classes. So, you're seeing these disciplines like
Right.
integrating like this. And so the creativity is all over the ballpark.
Absolutely, and there's, as you know, there's a strong connection between math and music, so it's not that surprising. So that was the beginning, just to kind of get them up to speed on what you might have to do to start a project. The main thing we were going for was what's called an electronic press kit. In the old days, you would have a folder, we would have an 8x10 glossy of an act and probably another sheet with a bio. Now everything is online, just like in other industries. So we have this electronic press kit, and this is what it would be made of photos, a combination of pose and action shots. A lot of times electronic press kits will contain a high resolution photo, so one that's at full resolution, so that, let's say an act is playing on the other side of the country, you could just send the promoter a link to the high res photo. They can download it and print out flyers that look high quality. So that's an advantage to that. Then an EPK usually contains a bio, and that was another challenge, to try to have students write bios that were not really hypey. They're supposed to be very matter of fact. A lot of students, I think, when they get assignments like this, their first thought is to write an album review or a performance review. So we have to kind of rein them in a little bit, but the bio is part of it. Then album art. All of the CD art you saw on the previous slides were done by the music business students on their own. And again, I'm not an artist, a visual artist, so I was really just leaving it up to them, and then they would bring ideas in, and I would say, oh, I really like this one, how about if we did this, and have them tweak it a little bit. And I was really impressed. For non-artists, mostly, I thought they did a really great job with the artwork. So you've got your album art. You would have links for streaming video on the electronic press kit, links for streaming audio, especially tunes that you want as singles, feature tunes. Then a press sheet, which would basically be just a page with links to reviews, live performance reviews, record reviews, any kind of publicity that the act has already had. And then, this is very important, the one sheet, which is a summary of the entire press kit. And so the purpose of a one sheet, and I have examples, is so that someone, a promoter, a manager, a label, a booker, can look at this one document and get a really good, clear idea of what the act is about. So one sheets are probably, out of everything, the one sheet is most important. And then, of course, you want contact info. So I'll show you some examples of one sheets. This was for the band All Over Jones. So you can see there's space for a brief bio, again, not hyped. On the right there, you've got the featured audio tracks. You've got some pictures, photos that are a combination of action and pose, and contact info. So it's really useful if, if I was a promoter and I was maybe looking for an opening act, I might go to their website, I'd look for their EPK, I'd go right to the one sheet. That way, in probably 2 minutes, I have a really good idea what this act is about. I can watch video, I can listen to audio, and make my decision whether or not I want to book that act. So it's a very useful document. This is the one for...
This is essentially their resume.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like an online resume. And of course, what's great about it is that it's interactive, so you could read as much or as little of it as you have time for. This is the one for Lorg, and again, this was done by Haley's graphics friend, and it looks totally professional. I can't think of anything that I would change about it. The artwork looks great. I love the big photo in the middle. So those were some highlights of the one sheets. Related to the project, I also have students create press releases. Talk about what a press release is. It's basically a factual mini story that tells the story of an event coming up or an album that's being put out. And again, those are supposed to be very straight down the middle, not hyped at all. And so there's a lot of back and forth and tweaking when it comes time to write the press releases. So this is an example of what I feel like was a real highlight. Ah, good, it worked. So just a couple things I want to point out. You can see that this is for the band Anti-Citizen. They had a big photo on top. I highlighted, it's hard to read on the screen, but I highlighted where they described the music. And that's, remember, we talked about that in the very beginning. So the highlighted part says classic hardcore punk scene. So right away, you know that it's some type of punk music. And then the second highlighted part mentions Henry Rollins and Black Flag, which is a band and a singer that if you were into punk, you would get a really good idea about what this act is about. And that's what we're trying to get them to do right from the beginning, is say, look, it's punk, it's like the Sex Pistols, all right? Or it's jazz, it's like John Coltrane. To really have a very quick description of the music. Because if you can describe it, then you can figure out who's going to be the audience, and then you can figure out how to reach that audience. And the press release is designed to have all of your important information right in the first paragraph. Really, it's in the headline. If I was a writer and I saw that headline that says Militant Uprising, New Anti-Citizen EP released, I almost don't have to read the press release. I know what it's about. It's about an EP that's released. If I already wrote too many album reviews, I might just throw it away. I could save time. If I'm interested in that, I could go through and read the rest of the release. And it's designed to have all of your important facts in the first paragraph, and as you move down the release, it gets less and less important. And that's to save time for the journalists, so that way they don't have to spend, 15 minutes reading a giant press release if they're not going to be interested. So we spent a lot of time tweaking these so that they're not extra hypey, they sound professional. And so I thought this was a really good format. Okay. Another thing that actually Todd had the idea for was to, when these recording sessions were happening at the CCM studios, have the music business students go in. Everyone now has a cheap video recorder in their phones. Have them go in and document the sessions in some way. And so I tweaked that assignment a little bit to have them do artist reviews. This was a tough one to pull off because it was hard to get the students in my class to coordinate when the recording sessions were happening, so not everyone could work it out. I found that the artists all didn't really take the interviews that seriously. So there's a lot of giggling, and I have to stop some of them after the beginning because they start using a lot of profanity. So that assignment needs to be tweaked a little bit. But I just want to play very brief clips of some of these teaser videos. And you've probably all seen these on Facebook when someone who's a musician or has an act, they're coming out with a new record or they have a new song. The first thing they'll do is take a 30-second clip of maybe an interview, or they may even just point their phone at a pair of speakers and let the song play. And it's just a teaser to get people interested in what's happening. So that, that's the world. Everybody is promoting 100% of the time. Oh, you know what? Oh, we have this plugged in, right? Okay, let's see if it's gonna, is that muted? Okay, thanks.
My name is Josh Hewitt. I'm here with the boys from Monday, who are everyone proclaimed to be the best band known in New Jersey at the moment, but will soon be world known and will be touring in the world. Yeah, I know. Here we go. Damn, dude, that's some high expectations. How's that? What genre do you guys consider yourself?
Okay, so first question, what genre?
Yeah, sludge punk. Yeah, it's grunge punk and hard rock. Virgin metal. So sludge gun / virgin metal. Sludge gun. Virgin metal. Sludge gun, virgin metal. Yeah, dude, that's sludge gun, virgin metal. Definitely.
Okay, so as you can see, musicians don't like to talk about what their style is. But they did get it out. Sludge punk, he mentioned. Okay, so sludge punk. You would probably have to say sludge punk like this band. And then possible audience would say, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. Now I know what it is. So that was for Monitor. This one, this is for the band All Over Jones. And this was done by James Avila, who was also a Practicum student. He was in both classes. I just liked what he did with the titles in the beginning. So we'll just watch a little bit of the beginning of this one.
This Mountain Dew Code Red.
Yeah, do that. Well, mostly it's sluts, to be completely honest. A lot of them are theoretical, like none of them don't even really exist.
Mine's the same way, but it's not theoretical. It's overruled.
I'm not saying none are theoretical.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we're making them sound way worse than what they are.
Yeah.
It's a pretty damn punk rock.
Yeah.
It didn't start that way, it's just what it ended up being.
Okay.
I was gonna pick one of my songs, he's picking one of his songs, and a cover song, and they all ended up being
You guys, like, we did one recording session last year, and then.
Yeah, we were doing a Practicum project for them last semester.
Nice.
But
Okay. So you can see, again, they're talking about genre. I just like the titles, having the question there, and then having the artist answer the question. One last one. This one's really short. Now, this one is for the company Kept, and despite that he was holding his phone vertically, so it was like this little skinny piece of video, but I think it was the drummer that he was interviewing from the band, and I thought the content-wise, they got this exactly right, where he talks about what style it is, and also an example of bands that he likes.
How long have you been in the band?
like almost 4 years now, probably.
Okay.
I think so.
And what would you say you guys are your biggest influences?
We got a few. We like to cite Death Cab for Cutie, The Strokes, M83. We have like a wide range. It kind of all works together.
Okay. What are your personal favorite bands?
The Strokes are my favorite, and then this cool indie band, Last Dinosaurs.
Last Dinosaurs, all right. Sweet.
Sweet. So I thought he wasn't shy about saying these are the bands we like. So I think that's really useful. Okay, so those are your teasers. Another assignment that I had, just as a general assignment, was to have everyone in the music business class plan a short tour itinerary. Because a lot of these bands, naturally, they're not getting any financial support from labels or managers. So literally what they have to do is get in a van and drive around and play shows. I hear students talk about this a lot, and I thought, well, it would probably be a good idea to understand what it costs for gas and tolls and all that, where you're going to sleep, what you're going to eat. So I put together this little assignment. It's basically a word problem. I tell them what vehicle they'll be driving. I tell them the gas mileage. I give them a starting point, which is Sayreville, New Jersey. I tell them what this first show is going to pay, which is completely overly optimistic because these poor bands, they get in vans and they play these shows. Venues make them sell tickets so that their friends come out to the shows. If they don't sell enough tickets, they get canceled. It's very difficult to get paid playing your own music. So I'm very optimistic with these numbers here. And so I give them a beginning point, I give them a destination. They're going out to Bloomington, Indiana, and they have to be back by a certain date. And then I have them fill in the gaps in the middle. And part of what I want them to think about is, what does it cost for gas, lodging, tolls, van repair, food, instrument repair, and of course your goal is to come back making a profit, which is nearly impossible. It's a lot of money to travel around. And oddly enough, in the class I had a student named Andrew Brunetti who has a three-piece punkish band who just did a small tour. I think they were out for maybe 10 days, did he say? And so when I was all excited, I was like, all right, how did it go? Did you come back making any money? I think we almost broke even, So it was nice to have him in the class because he had a very realistic view of what it's about. And so I have his what he did for this assignment, I'll just point out a couple things on here. Let's see if I can make it bigger. So these are the venues. You can see that a really big part of how bands make money on the road is from selling merchandise, or what we call merch. So he listed how many CDs they sold at shows, how many shirts they sold at shows. Most of the time, that's the only money bands make, because they're not really making that much off of the shows. So t-shirt sales is what gets them from show to show. And of course, Andrew is being very optimistic about how many t-shirts he sold as well. Then I thought this was very creative, and it's probably because he had some experience, was where they were staying. So you could see that they slept in the van a couple nights, a friend's basement, family in Cleveland. One night they splurged for a hotel, sleep in the van, and one hotel in Pittsburgh. And that's reality. That's what bands have to do. A lot of bands will go to campsites, because it's a lot cheaper. You can just camp. So it's definitely not glamorous. And then here's all their expenses here, and then Andrew showed a profit of $1,200, which probably not, but I think it's a really good assignment because they don't. If you didn't have to do it, you wouldn't think about, well, what are the tolls between here and Bloomington? You have to figure that out, or how much gas am I going to spend? So that was kind of an extra assignment. And that's about it for the overview on the project. I really got a lot out of it. It answered some questions, I think, for all three of us, as far as what we need to do for next time. And I think we got a really positive response from the students. They enjoyed, having to actually plan these things. Any questions that I could answer for you?
Yeah, just a comment about having been on the road and everything that is happening in this classroom situation is a terrific model to know what to expect.
Exactly. And you were driving around in a school bus, right? With big bands?
No, but over the years, musicians find themselves doing a lot of different things.
Right.
Regular work, steady work, which is something you're great for. But then there are these weekend run out to Mississippi.
Right.
Either you fly out, depending upon what you're going to be paying, who the contractor is and everything else. But, thinking about that, and we faculty do and have done those things, and now sharing it with the student to prepare them for all of this that lies ahead.
Exactly.
It's a great classroom.
Yes.
Dan, have you ever, because of our the musical theater students and or the drama students, because they're always going to auditions and so forth, do you have any of those students in your classes?
Not in music business, no, not usually. Probably because it's outside of their curriculum.
Yeah.
And, there's not
It would
room.
do well, because I know you do contracts too. And that's,
We spend a lot of time on that whole side of it.
Side of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're of course welcome to do it.
Oh, I know that.
I guess what I was thinking about, so business professor, communications professor, music professor, 3-credit class.
It's a 3-credit class, right?
Which programs did it apply to?
I was just gonna say that the Student Film Association is a club, so it's not a course. So this is definitely a
actually a
music.
course that
Yeah.
you're talking. Because it could be, because I'm thinking that, I was actually thinking of why not partial credit? Where someone,
Well, it's not
for
everybody-
example, a course like this or along these lines, we have this wonderful little trap that students fall into in liberal arts. They need 12 credits of math, science, and technology.
Right.
We get a lot of students who need that one last credit. If they could work on a practicum class like this, doing the graphics, doing, and I'm thinking of those students in their electives who could take any class to earn restricted elective credits, that kind of thing.
Sure.
And I'm visualizing, you talked about reasons to have these kinds of classes, kinds of classes that would attract both 4-credit students and non-credit students, who then might be converted into.
Right, yeah, that's a great point.
it's, you know, this is the kind of thing,
Right.
this is the future, this is great.
Absolutely.
Good for recruitment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right, yeah, music business is part of the, obviously, the music curriculum.
Yes.
It's a requirement for recording and electronic music, but it's open to everyone. I
But
get
it's-
students
it's
who come in
something
from all programs.
Students can learn what they want to learn
Right.
from it, earn a piece of credit, be part of a team.
Right.
You know, the kind of thing that we're trying to talk about.
That's a great thought.
It's, I think it's amazing. It's the
Absolutely.
future.
Well, let's play the video. So now,
Yeah.
this is where it all comes together.
Okay.
So the tune that the film club chose.
Matt Bukovski is one of our most talented film students. He's worked in the broadcast program with Ray Kalis, and he's in my Introduction to Film course this semester, and he's vice president of the Student Film Association. And one thing I resonated to him because when I was in a film program when I was in college as well, I shot music video in exchange for labor from the musician to write the score or record the score for my short film. So he and I sort of connected on that point. But I would also say that in the one of the classes that I observed of Dan Palladino's, he spoke up, and a number of Dan students did as well, in terms of the need for this sort of collaborative, interdisciplinary work. And Matt specifically, I think, if I'm correct, he pointed out how important it was to work with the artist from the beginning of the process,
right,
to ensure continuity and the realization of vision. And that interested me as well. I mean, I did my dissertation work was related to the adaptation process, and I see this as a kind of form of adaptation of one medium to another in terms of the consistency of an idea. I think his work is really, really good, so let's take a look at it.
So interesting thing is the artist was Matt McCluskey. A different Matt McCluskey was the film student. Two different people. And also the film students won the Peace Prize this semester. So he's doing great.
Yeah, I thought particularly, at least for this video, not that it is completely flawless, but I think timing and composition, two very important principles in film production were good, especially good in this. Thank you.
Any last questions, comments?
Like the goal that you're setting for the students in every level to reach professionalism so that they can do this on their own, because you mentioned that there's a challenge for the industry to not recognize or promote developing artists. So if we know that that's true, that you're on your own
Exactly.
from the get-go, I wonder if there's an opportunity for CCM to develop some sort of incubator for our graduates where it transitions them from what we teach them to marketing themselves.
Well, sure, like in Blackboard, we have the sandbox, right? It'd be great to use that metaphor to see how, course collaboration can be a sort of sandbox for the real world. I mean, even organically, I can say, I'll go back to the class that I sat in, Dan's class that I sat in. I was really impressed by how organically the ideas came from the students. In fact, the graphic design idea, that was a student idea, I think,
That's
came
right.
right from them. And there are, I think, many possibilities. And for example, Dan has a press release as part of the assignment. We have a public relations course where, it's not losing that skill. It's not outsourcing it to something else. It's part of creating that professional empathy that I started out by talking about, where you learn collaboratively from watching the whole picture come together and seeing what your collaborators are doing to achieve a particular effect.
And we teach now, even public administration, I'm sure business does also, the reality now is what they call matrix organizations, network organizations, where you're going to be part of the
Absolutely.
team.
Right.
And that's one of the things, this plays right into this generation.
Absolutely does.
Absolutely.
And their aptitudes and their attitudes.
Yeah, that has always existed in the music industry.
Right.
It is a very
Which is
collaborative
very
process,
much
but now
what we
it's,
see
like you were saying
the rest
before,
of the
Matt,
world
it's
becoming more
democratized.
like that.
Right.
And just one last point I want to make is, the disruption concept.
Yeah.
I was kind of, I saw the what is it called, the video teaser?
Right.
As a disruptive, well, I mean, maybe disruption is the wrong thing, but it's certainly a byproduct of the easy availability of video and the easy distribution of video. I didn't even know what a video teaser was, and clearly that's the result of visual media production being in everyone's pocket in the form of their smartphone, and creating candid slices of life of the band describing their work, and then kind of getting put up there to make them more personable, more real,
Right.
more accessible. So very different and disruptive from, I think, the formal old way things.
Absolutely, where you would have to have a company behind you,
Right.
financing all of this. Now everyone, even your plumber, is taking pictures of himself and putting it on Facebook. Oh, hey, look, this was my plumbing job today. So everyone now is in this promotion business.
Well, thank you all for coming. We were afraid we were going to outnumber you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.